Richard Pryor serves that role. His son is such a little asshole to him too through the first half of the movie. Like he whips him, throws shit at him, fucks with Richard Pryor the whole time.
Yeah.
Wait. These are movies that were in the 80s?
Yes.
Yeah. Everything is about high concept, like poor execution. like
80s movies. This is
you describe the plot of it, and you're like, whoa, they did a movie on that, and you're like, yes. There's a movie where a guy takes a bunch of tanning pills and gets into Harvard Law and goes as a black man.
Oh, that's C. Thomas Howell. What the hell is the name of that movie?
That's Soul Man.
Soul Man. Yep.
Yeah.
How the hell do you guys know this movie? Like, how do you?
This is the 80s.
Yeah, it's the 80s. You
lived through the 80s.
There was like 3 movies in the 80s, and they just kept
the only fucked up movie I remember from the 80s was what was that one where it was Pan's Labyrinth? I remember that one.
That's not from the.
No, that's not Pan's Labyrinth. The one with who's the rock star that died recently?
You're talking about Labyrinth.
Labyrinth.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Pan's Labyrinth. Labyrinth. Yes, Labyrinth.
with David Bowie.
With David Bowie, yeah.
And what's her name? Oh my God, that girl.
Jennifer Connelly. Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I mean, she's still beautiful.
Yeah, she did. She looks amazing.
Jennifer Connelly looked great when she was 16. Jennifer Connelly looks great when she's 45. Jennifer Connelly looks great.
Her and Phoebe Cates are both like.
Yeah, Brooke Shields as well.
Yes.
Like they just.
By the way, guys, for those of you wondering what the hell we're doing, we're just trying to get a feel for this. We are live, by the way. Both of you open up a stream, and for some reason on live stream I do sound like I am 12. I don't know why, but this is a thing. So we're all gonna have to live with it. I sound like I'm 12. Yeah. Phil sounds professional, and Preston sounds like he's haunting the place with his echo.
Soon you will be. We got the live chat is already in here. Carmine is 12. Someone in the live chat says.
Carmine. First of all, Carmine's 15. So
if I shave my beard, I could pass for a 15-year-old. Yes, if I shaved my beard. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. This is actually one of my first live streams on my channel. This is the first live stream for Preston as well. You've never done a live stream, Preston.
I have not.
And yeah, thank God Phil is here with us because he's kind of the master of live streams. Phil, how long have you been doing live streams on YouTube?
Oh my goodness, way too long. Since like 2012, or whenever the last season of Breaking Bad was, is when I first started doing them.
Oh, shit, that was a long time ago. And, this is just the pregame show. I kind of want to do this every week. Phil, I hope you can join us for every week because you are the man. And, thank you.
No, thank you guys for having me. And, Lady Lauren says, hi, Phil, hi, Preston, and hi, Internet Husband. Ooh.
Which one's the Internet Husband?
I'm guessing that's Carmine because it was the only one not mentioned.
I don't know what she's
it could be like a inverse Islamic situation where like every woman is allowed 4 husbands.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Sure. I don't know what she's talking about. But anyway, guys, welcome to a special episode of the Thrones podcast. I guess this is what I wanted to talk about actually before the season premiere starts is a bit of George R. R. Martin news.
Yes.
And this is something that I wanted to talk to you about. And it was something that George said to Anderson Cooper in a 60 Minutes interview regarding the ending to Thrones and the ending to the book series. Are you down for that?
Yeah. I watched the Anderson Cooper interview today. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Anderson Cooper says, I have the transcript here. He says, and in essence, by the time the series is finished and your other 2 books are finished, it's essentially going to be 2 different versions. And Martin says yes. But then George Martin says, but I think that's true of every adaptation. We got all these Spider-Men. It's Stan Lee's Spider-Man for the comic books. They're similar, but they're also different. Things happen to one that never happened in the others. The girlfriends are shuffled and reshuffled. The primary beats are there. The character is there, but it's a question of what are the choices you make to tell the story. Blah, blah, blah. And then Anderson Cooper says, do you worry that some fans will have Dave and Dan's ending in mind? Or would that be a disappointment to you? And this is where George Martin kind of contradicts himself. He says, I don't think Dave and Dan's ending is going to be that different from my ending because of the conversations we did have. But they may be on certain secondary characters. There may be big differences. And yeah, some people will have that. There will be a debate, I'm sure. I think a lot of people who say, oh, Dave and Dan ending is better and George than the one George gave us, blah, blah. So basically what he's saying is that He said that the ending's gonna be different, but it's gonna be the same.
Yeah, I mean, George R. R. Martin contradicts himself all the time in interviews, which gets me into some trouble when I talk about it, because I'll say, well, George said this, but I think this is going to happen in the book, and then someone comes back and is like, Preston said George R. R. Martin is a liar, and I'm like, nah, like. You have to understand the guy is all over the map when he opens his mouth in these interviews. Mm-hmm. Like he said that the show has been 97% faithful to his material so far. And I'm like, what? Like what
Did he actually say that?
He actually said that in the interview.
I feel like he's watching a different show. That's not the show I'm watching.
He said 97% faithful. Like what I don't understand. Like how
I feel like George watched the first season and then he made that quote, and then because the first season is pretty faithful to what we have. It really is.
I could say that about season 1. Yeah, season 1, season 2, maybe 95% faithful. Season 3, maybe 90% faithful, and then
I was actually going to argue it. Season 1 would probably be 80% faithful because they left out all the Kathleen chapters where she's just traveling the entire time.
Oh yeah. I mean,
and you have certain secondary characters that are obviously also left out, like Robert's daughter that Kathleen meets in the Vale.
Mm-hmm.
She's left out, of course. We never see that in the show.
Stone, yeah.
So yeah,
Emma Stone. Yeah.
You were on record as saying in the previous podcast episodes that I gotta stop reading the chat. It's really distracting me. You said that you firmly believe that George's ending will be different, but essentially it's going to be almost the same. And the only difference is that certain secondary characters that are not in the show will probably be present for the ending in the books. Like Horsebane might be there, or Lysen Omar might be there. Maybe fake Aegon.
I mean, okay, it's like let's say the ending is time traveling Bran hits the reset button. Mm-hmm. Like, is George going to have time traveling Bran hit the reset button? Yeah, probably. Let's say the ending is everybody dies. Is George's ending going to be everybody dies? Maybe, but George might be also talking about like thematically, like what it all means, like the human heart and conflict kind of stuff.
Right.
The rise of Skywalker is inside you. It might be all like thematic. So you have no idea. Or he's just talking on his butt. Like the guy hasn't finished the last 2 books. He doesn't freaking know. Like there's that. If he knew, maybe we'd have those books.
True.
So it's like, it's so hard to like, to make sense of the gibberish that he spoke on Anderson Cooper, because it was just gibberish.
Careful, Preston. This is starting to sound like blasphemous here. You're gonna make me lose subscribers. What are you doing?
No. Okay, look, I think that the probable case is that you're gonna have one big ending, like time traveling Bran, like fixing everything, and that'll probably be George's ending as well.
That's my favorite ending. I mean, there is a theory. I'll say it real quick. The theory that Bran is the one behind everything. Bran's the reason the Mad King went crazy. Bran's the reason the wall went up. Bran is like in the show. Remember that? You guys remember that season 16 when like Bran goes back in time. He sees the Children of the Forest make the Night King, and it was that guy, that skinny dude, tied to a tree. They have a gag in his mouth. I believe that is Bran. That was a theory someone came up with. I believe that is Bran trying to tell them, I'm from the future, and they gag him up and because they want to hear his shit. Yeah. And I believe the Night King is Bran. And I think the ultimate ending of the show would be they all lose. This is a war they don't win. And then Bran's ultimate like journey is to go back in time and make it to where in order for them to win, he needs to die.
Yeah, and try again.
I
mean, either try again or, I mean, there's the idea of.
Well, as long as if Bran lives, the Night King is also born. The reason they can't be the Night King is because he has all these powers. Right. Because Bran has all these powers.
He's gonna butterfly effect himself, right?
Yes.
Like, yeah.
You've seen that movie. You've seen that movie, right?
It reminds me of a Star Trek episode too, like a causality loop, as it just keeps spinning around and spinning around. He has to keep trying to save himself, going back in time and making the same spins over and over again.
Right. Like there's a Star Trek episode called Year of Hell,
Yep.
Voyager
Yep.
episode where,
Shit.
in the end they just got to blow up the machine.
Here it comes,
and
Carmine. Do you know that they were originally going to do a whole season of Year of Hell, but they changed their mind and pussied out and kind of only did it as an episode with Red.
I would have
Forest.
loved an entire season of Year of Hell, but
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't want the reset button. I would want like effects of it, but yeah. Yeah, I do remember that Year of Hell is prefaced in a previous episode, but now we're talking Star Trek.
Yeah, sorry,
so.
Carmine.
I have no idea. When it comes to, I knew you guys were gonna bring up Star Trek. The moment you
I was waiting
motherfuckers
for
bring
it.
up Star Trek, I'm out of here.
I was
Like,
waiting
I have
for
no idea what's happening.
We already had people in the live chat say unsubscribe because of what Preston was saying about George. Now let's talking about Star Trek. They're out the fucking door. But people in the live chat kind of like us. Savior Brand planned it all. Katie says makes sense, and so I think some people are up on that as well.
Phil, what are your thoughts on the whole like George R. R. Martin
God.
kind of contradicting himself here and saying that the ending the show will give us might be very similar to his ending?
I don't know. I tend to agree with Preston that I'm not even sure if he's written the ending yet, and part of me thinks he's going to see how this flies and then adjust things a little bit to what he feels like, if he likes how it plays. And I think part of it is also him trolling a little bit. And I think part of it is the way that these articles are written. Because you were saying that about, that article says, the ending won't be much different. I was reading an article from Rolling Stone, or an interview in Rolling Stone, where he was basically contradicting himself in saying that it won't be the same as the books, that it's very different. So let me read exactly what he says here. This is from an article on mentalfloss.com, where I've been slow in these books. The major points of the endings will be things I've told them 5 or 6 years ago, but there's also many changes and there'll be a lot added. So, I mean, that's not an exact contradiction, but that's a little bit different. And in the article you were saying, he said that the major points would be with the main characters, not necessarily with some of the side characters. So I don't know. I think it's just a little bit of him trolling, having fun with the moment, and figuring out what he's going to do with his books.
I don't know, man. I feel like that's the ending for the show. Bran goes back in time, and he needs to stay dead in order for them to win the eventual war. This timeline is fucked, and we're going to have a reset on the very last episode. Because why introduce time travel and then never go back to it ever again?
No, I mean, there's definitely going to be time travel at the end. I'd say I would say 95% chance. You don't introduce time travel once to not have it use it again, unless you're Harry Potter. Well, even Harry Potter.
I was going to say that.
I was like, except for Harry Potter. Oh wait, Cursed Child. Yeah.
Well, there's a reason. J.K. Rowling back in the day when she wasn't batshit insane. There's a reason why she introduced it once and then never did it again. And I guess once again she's gotten crazy this time, so she reintroduced it in Cursed Child, which I think the only cool thing about Harry Potter, the Cursed Child, is the fact that that little old lady that goes around on the trolley. If you try to escape the train, apparently she turns into like a monster with like huge claws or whatever. That was cool, but everything else about Cursed Child was meh.
We find out Hermione is black. That's kind of cool.
I'm not even gonna touch that. But what was I gonna say? God damn, the chat really. By the way, guys, I thank you for joining us in the chat. But you are fucking distracting me. I love you. The good distraction. I was gonna ask Phil something. Phil, what do you think about that theory that Bran goes back in time and the whole ending will be like a reset? He needs to kill himself or he needs to die in order for the next timeline to actually defeat the Night King.
I think it has the best potential for being an awesome ending to watch. I'm thinking about it just in execution purposes. Can they pull that off with 6 episodes left to go, or is it just going to be a big yada yada Bill and Ted moment at the end where they're like, dudes, Bran was totally everywhere? Like, I want to know if they have the time to do that and actually do it well. I think that would be a good ending.
So hey guys, wouldn't it be cool if Littlefinger were time traveling Bran?
Oh,
the whole time.
Yeah. That'd be great. And he's also a faceless man traveling.
He's also Jaqen Hagar.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Just came in my pants just now. I fucking love this thing.
Larry Jones in the chat says, time traveling hurts my brain. Just look at the Hodor ordeal. Bran goes back and wakes up when King Robert arrives, says Dr. Kybard. And Red Team... Oh, this is a different question. Do you think Jon Snow will die at the end? Okay, so...
Actually, let's just jump into some final season predictions. And like I said, I think everybody's gonna die. Everybody, like I feel like the posters that show everybody's like dead body making the throne. I feel like that literally is what's gonna happen.
Except for Theon.
Yeah, like everybody's done, and Bran will pretty much decide the whole thing.
So do you think that Bran will fix it like Butterfly Effect, where he fixes it by killing himself, or do you think it's like Bran will go back in time and then they're like one more time, and then the hope is like we won't get to see the next Bran iteration, but Bran goes back in time and we've got another shot, and that's the ending. Is it like
But
let's try
he
this again.
already tried it before. I mean, how many times has he actually tried it? I remember there being a Futurama episode. I don't know if you guys have seen the newest season, the final season of Futurama, where Bender, Fry, and the professor go forward in time, and apparently time is a loop, and they go right around back to where they started.
Yeah,
and yeah, right. It's one of the final season. And I think that's majorly what's going on here. No matter how many times he goes back in time, he's just going to fuck it up somehow. It's just not going to work until he does. It's like that one episode of Treehouse of Horror in The Simpsons where Homer has the time-traveling toaster. Did you guys watch that one?
Yeah, no, totally.
He goes back in time. Apparently his father gave him advice on his wedding day. If you ever find yourself in a time machine, don't change anything in the past. But, no, yeah. Any predictions for episode 1?
I think episode 1, we're going to be, like most episode 1s, we're going to be surprised at how much time killing there is.
Yep.
And then,
you really think so? With 6 episodes left, they're going to fucking put filler.
I think you're going to be, I mean, that's what I thought was season 7. And then I was like, oh my God, they're really killing some
There
time.
wasn't that much filler in season 7, though. Season 6, there was a lot of filler.
I mean, go ahead. Phil.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I'm trying to think. I think that first episodes do tend to have a lot of filler. I think in tonight's episode you're gonna see a lot of like reunions, a lot of just characters talking and getting the feel of the dynamics of where everything's gonna go in those next 2 episodes. So I think tonight's gonna be setting the table for episodes 2 and 3.
Setting the tables, but this is the last setting the tables we're gonna get because whatever happens in episode 2, I feel like episode 2 is where the very ending of episode 2 is where the final battle is, or the Battle of Winterfell begins. Episode 3 is the aftermath of that, where they retreat. Episode 4, they're licking their wounds. Episode 5 is the beginning of the last stand, and episode 6 is where, in my opinion, the reset happens.
Right. I mean, I could see the battle for Winterfell being in episode 3 or 2. Yeah. I mean, either one. But I mean, yeah, we've got to do all these reunions, right? We've got to have Arya talk to Jon. We have to have Gendry talk to Arya. Things like that. You got to you have to have a useless Sam and Gilly scene. Another scene with Jon and Dany talking, and all these things happen, and then you've got to go back to have the Golden Company arrive and meet Cersei. And things like that. So I mean, stuff will happen. I mean,
the obligatory everybody looking at a dragon.
Yeah,
everybody's got to look at that dragon in the sky with majestic music playing.
Ari's got to do a stupid smirk for no reason,
Yeah.
By the way, there was a promotional picture I saw with Dany, and it looked like she had a baby bump. Do you think we're gonna get maybe Dany figures out that she is Jon's aunt, and then episode 2, maybe we find out she's pregnant? Or is that too much of a time jump?
I think the important question there is, does Jon find out that she's his aunt in this episode? Do Bran and Sam tell him? Is that our big thing that actually does happen in this episode? Do they have that conversation with Jon? And I tend to think yes. I think they'll get that over with in this episode too. Jon will find out he's been banging the aunt.
Yeah, and then he'll keep everything a secret.
Yep.
Like it's like you're the real king. Well, I'm going to keep that a secret because it's more important that Dany's queen.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're banging your aunt. Well, okay. Well, that's weird, but I'm gonna sit on that.
Yeah. Oh, you got 2 super chat donations, Carmine. One from Sean who says Ed Sheeran will be the only one alive in the end. And then one from TK that says the Golden Company will be carrying in a secret character, the true hero of the story, played by Orlando Bloom, Chad Summerchild, the prince that was promised.
By the way, speaking of Chad Summerchild, I did promise I'd give him a plug. There's a video game called Crusader Kings. It's a real-time strategy game. They recently came to me to ask you if they could put Chad Summerchild in the game. So there's a mod for Crusader Kings called the Game of Thrones mod. They're cool guys, and they just released an update where they added Chad Summerchild for that game. So if you guys are playing Crusader Kings, download the Game of Thrones mod for it, because you can play as Chad Summerchild now. So there you go, Preston.
Very nice, very nice.
Your own made-up character. It's closer to becoming. I would love it if George. Wouldn't it be great? Like, how would you feel if George was actually like a secret fan of your channel and he just input Chad Summerchild or Summerchild in general in the book?
I'm just, I just have all this fear that like George is a secret hater of like I'm sure George doesn't know who I am other than the guy that talked to him once at like a dinner and that he quickly tried to forget. But he, if he does know I exist, I hope, I just fear that he just hates me. Like I just.
Well, he hates fan fiction, so I mean, theories are not fan fiction. But do you think he kind of knows the difference? I mean, do you think he cares? I mean,
I'm sure his minions must know who I am. Like, you'd think that somebody with a little more time and more who are younger, who are on the internet more, would probably know. But yeah.
By the way, I just want to say, because I really am. I've really been doing this for 10 years. For those of you guys who plan on pirating the show, I would suggest on holding off from doing that. Now, I'm not being paid by HBO to say that, but I checked Pirate Bay today out of the curiosity, and already you got some shady uploads that are totally not the first episode of Season 8 up there. So careful. I don't want you guys to get a virus. And we did get another Super Chat donation from, this guy's going to kill me because I always see him in the comments section. Phil, pronounce that?
PNW Psycho Bleed Jedi.
There you go. Brand can't go back in Butterfly Effect at all, because then it wouldn't have happened in the first place using the hold the door logic. I mean,
it's true.
This is where time travel confuses me, and I pass it off to you guys.
So yes, George is very aware of time travel paradoxes. Like his three time travel stories that he wrote, he deals with these paradoxes a lot. But he kind of thinks that telepathic transfer of consciousness is a way around it. So the idea is that so there's the whole grandfather paradox, right? If you go back in time and you kill your grandfather, he wouldn't be able to produce your dad, who couldn't produce you, so you couldn't go back to kill your grandfather, and so you've got this paradox.
Right.
So George R. R. Martin's solution to it all is if you send your consciousness back in time, there's nothing tangential, or there's nothing what's the word I'm using for it?
It's like quantum leap.
Concrete.
It's like quantum leap, where Sam cannot really mess up history because it's just his essence bleeping.
It's just his essence, right? There's nothing, there's nothing concrete. And so, if you send your consciousness back in time to influence somebody else, let's say Joe, to kill your grandfather, then there's no paradox because Joe killed your grandfather. And this ethereal consciousness thing isn't there. Now, of course, it's still a freaking paradox. I understand that, but that's George R. R. Martin's workaround to it all. So he has a story called
No, go ahead.
He has a story called Under Siege, where essentially Tyrion, he's a drunkard chess-playing dwarf. So Tyrion lives in the future, in a post-apocalyptic future, and they're sending him back in time to do some diplomacy in order to prevent the apocalypse. And so, he goes back in time and he's trying to change this guy's decision. And in the future, he's constantly wait, aren't I going to create this paradox? And they explain it no, there's no paradox because only your consciousness is back in time. Mm-hmm. And then I'll spoil the story, but he succeeds in preventing the apocalypse. And then he leaves his consciousness back in time with the guy.
So he just ends up living back in time.
Yeah. Because he's scared to death of obliterating himself. Because if he changes the timeline, he's going to obliterate the future, and so he's scared of dying. So at the end, I mean, it's not as creepy as being John Malkovich, where you steal somebody else's body in murderous theft. Like his consciousness and the new guy's consciousness blend together to form a new person, and both consciousnesses seem fine with that. In this like beautiful new marriage.
See, this is why I think
Venom.
you're the only person who is able to actually predict this. And this is that question I was going to ask you, Phil, because you've read George's other works. Like you read all his stuff before, and I feel like the only way to really understand A Song of Ice and Fire and to some extent Game of Thrones from HBO is by being a George R. R. Martin fan, which you are, which I am not. Someone donated in the super chat. Does John or Danny survive? I think they both die. That's just my prediction.
Yeah,
everybody dies. Yeah. I was gonna ask you, Phil, because this was a topic of this was like kind of a heated topic a while ago.
But Danny makes it to episode 5 and John dies in episode 6.
No,
is that our bet?
No. I'm not making no bets with you. But I always lose. But no, I was gonna ask Phil, do you think anyone can say they're a fan of George R. R. Martin if they don't like anything besides A Song of Ice and Fire? Because he has so much other stuff going on. He has so many other works. I feel like if you don't like a good majority of what he's done, you can't really call yourself a George fan. You can call yourself a Song of Ice and Fire fan, just not a George R. R. Martin fan.
Yeah, that's a difficult thing. It's like I like Quentin Tarantino because I love Pulp Fiction. Are you just a fan because you like a single work of art by somebody, or do you have to like more of that to be a fan of the whole thing? I think there are more people that are fans of Song of Ice and Fire and appreciate George and call him a genius, but just aren't taking the time to be familiar with his other material, because that's all educational to me. What Preston said there, that rings a lot true to what you were saying about Bran and all of that coming together. So I could see an ending similar to, and I'm just not using this as an excuse to bring up Quantum Leap twice, but ending like Quantum Leap, where Bran is leaping around through time, constantly trying to figure this out and never being able to figure it out, and it ends on a bummer that it's just him forever going through time and going through these causality loops and fucking things up every time, finding a new way to fuck it up.
I mean, okay, that last episode, for those that haven't seen the ending of Quantum
Leap. Oh, that's
Leap,
horrible.
Like, it
was such a punch in the balls.
It was such a punch. But it didn't mean to be, but it was so depressing.
Yeah, it
like
really was.
Like the premise of Quantum Leap in the credits is his whole goal is like leaping through history, writing rights that once went wrong, and hoping each time that the next leap will be his leap home. And there's this like heart-wrenching thing in the actress's voice when she says that.
And then it kicks
the
into
last
this cheesy
words
music
of the fucking series are, Sam Beckett never makes it home. And it's like I understand that he never makes it home because he sacrifices his life to continually help people over and over again. And I get it, but they just did it in the most sad way. Yeah. Like they could have had it be more uplifting, but
let's answer some super chats real quick. Steven Siniston says, can Darkstar be Lyanna and Rhaegar's child? He got the looks and we don't know his parents nor age. And Ned gave him to the Dans of the Sword Dawn and Jon is blah, blah, blah. So is Darkstar, could it possibly be, I'll pass this to Preston, Lyanna and Rhaegar's child? Could that
I think Darkstar's too old.
Do you think so?
Yeah. I think Darkstar is, not that we're told, but we assume that he's of an age with Ariana, and Ariana's in her 20s, and so he would even Rhaegar and Lyanna meet at the Harrenhal tourney in 281. So I mean, unless Darkstar is secretly younger than we think, but yeah. I don't think so.
And Jon being Ned and Ashara's child. We've discussed it before, but what are your thoughts on it, real quick?
I mean, I think the what's set up is, in the first book is everything for Ned and Ashara to be Jon's parents, and for that reason, I would say it's unlikely.
Right. That's right. We discussed it in the one when you told me about like you thought there was incest between Liana and who was it? And Benjen.
Oh, well, we talked about that theory. I don't necessarily think that the Liana
Yeah.
Benjen incest theory is correct, though it's a fascinating, interesting theory.
By the way, Phil, just so you know, Preston's whole idea is the first idea introduced in the books is the idea that you should never follow as a rule of thumb for George's works. Like you should never follow that. So if someone says, well, I think Cersei is part Targaryen because blah 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 blah, then you should never follow that. Another
right. It's sort of like, so there's a moment in which like Jaime assumes Varys planned the riot of King's Landing, and you're like, that's interesting, but because Jaime came up with that idea, you're like, well, it probably wasn't Varys. It's probably Littlefinger.
Yeah, it's probably somebody else.
So like Catelyn thinks that Ned and Ashara are the parents of Jon, and because Catelyn, and that's the first idea that we get, is that Ned and Ashara are Jon's parents, and then that's beat into us again later by Edric Dane, and it's it's just because it's the first one given to us, it just doesn't seem likely.
It's no way it's true. Oh, we got a couple other super chat donations. We got one from Angela Smith, and another one from Angela Smith that says, "I love Preston Jacobs."
We also got one a while ago from Jacob S. He says, Preston, are you doing any writing? That's right. You were writing a book. How goes that?
No, I mean, I've got a book that I about 3/4 the way through. Unfortunately, I've been incredibly busy because I moved back to America and then, bought a house, and other things have been going on in my life. And so it's been put on hold, especially now that Game of Thrones season's on. So, but hopefully I'm gonna get back into trying to write it in a couple months when Game of Thrones season ends. But yeah.
I remember speaking to this guy who on Reddit, very briefly, the guy who wrote the Powdered Mage novels. I've never read them before. I asked him a question. I said he was answering someone else's question, saying, you can make a fairly decent living off books, fairly decent, but you're not going to be rich like Stephen King. And I asked him, well, what if you were a somewhat successful YouTuber? He goes, yeah, you'd probably have a better time. Still not successful than Stephen King, depending on your numbers, but you'd probably have a better time than I did if you were a somewhat successful YouTuber. Victoria Phillips says, will Tyrion and Sansa get together? I don't think so. I would like that, though, because it would be out of the left field. But I want to see, I'll pass this off to you, Phil. I want to see Sansa actually show some fucking appreciation to Tyrion, because if he decided to up and, have sex with her, she couldn't really refuse. But he was a complete and utter gentleman, and I do want Tyrion to get some recognition for being the gentleman that he was when that situation did happen between them.
Yeah, my co-host from my show, Joe, he wants more than anything for Tyrion to be able to get a little of that side butthole Sansa action at some point. but he thinks he deserves it, and he's gonna rekindle the romance or something. I don't know about that. Why not in the live chat says Sansa will cuck Arya and marry Gendry, just for the hell of it.
For the lulz.
That would be pretty funny.
That would be amazing. Stephen Michael Davis with a super chat donation says, this is a great team. Thanks, guys. I'm super excited for tonight. And James Holt also with a super chat donation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, James.
James Holt of Hell Holt. I did 5 references at once simultaneously there, like Steve Holt, James Holt, but
such a nerd. I love you, Preston. You're such a nerd.
Hell Holt and Doran. Holt. He's also the protagonist of a George R. R. Martin story called The Stone City.
Fucking nerd. Anyways, no, guys, thank you for joining us. Preston, would you want to do one on your channel next week?
Yeah, sure.
And Phil, would you like to join us for that?
Hell yeah.
because once again, guys, this is just, kind of like a practice run because I've done live streams with Phil, but I've never been really in charge of them. So, I am a little, I always tell Preston, like, I would rather record our podcast than live stream it because, if I get something wrong or something, people chew me apart or I don't want to say the wrong word. And then, oh my God, my career on YouTube is over. So
every once in a while, he starts claiming he hates Eskimos, and then
you should hear the Eskimo hate that we get. Well,
oh my God,
they're fucking
nobody
igloos.
listen to them.
Yeah.
Nobody listen to them, please. But no, Phil. Seriously though, before we continue, I do want to give you some love because I was actually thinking about this the other day. I was talking about this with a couple of other people. I've been on YouTube for 5 years now, and I've met probably maybe like 50 to 60 YouTubers, and you are absolutely one of the best guys I've ever met. So seriously, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, because you do not get enough recognition and love, especially from the people that do know you. And I'm being serious, brother. Like, you really are, no offense, Preston, one of the best guys I've ever met on here. Like, no, legitimately serious.
And don't let Carmine fool you. He's an awesome guy too.
And I think both Phil and Carmine are horrible people.
Really, see, that's why Preston's the best, because he can dig deep. He knows it's all an act. He knows I'm really a horrible person.
Always the contrarian. Men of the West gave $5. Also, by the way, guys, if you do like Lord of the Rings, please check out Men of the West. I'm not saying that because he gave me. I'm saying that because Men of the West is my favorite Lord of the Rings channel on YouTube. Please definitely check out Men of the West for Lord of the Rings content. You will not be disappointed. So Phil, let me ask you this: any major predictions for tonight's episode?
Just what I said earlier. I think John absolutely finds out that he's been banging his aunt. I think that's a guarantee for tonight, and I also think we get Ghost is gonna be in tonight. Yeah, that's my big prediction. We're actually gonna see Ghost. We're gonna fucking see Ghost. Yeah, I'm making the prediction.
Ghost is gonna be in tonight's
Yeah, we're gonna see a Ghost fucking appearance. Damn it.
Do we have enough? Do we have enough in the budget for
I
that?
hope so. I don't know. Maybe they didn't. I want to see Ghost look at the dragon. We see everything else look up at the dragon. Can we get a shot of the direwolf looking up at the dragon? Come on.
That's actually something I'm super curious to see. So someone mentioned it in the chat earlier that we're probably going to see Last Hearth, and we're also probably going to see his Last Hearth and Carhold get destroyed by the White Walkers off screen. We'll probably get news maybe a Raven will come and give us the news. But the one thing
it'll show like the Karstark kid, and then all of a sudden there'll be like a snowy cloud, and then it'll cut away or something.
Yeah. I want to see Dany address the Northern Lords, because last season we did see that they were not too keen, on having Daenerys over here. So I want to see that. I want to see that scene. And King McKay.
Love that guy.
King McKay, thank you for the donation. I love you, brother.
I'm going to make a bold prediction. Fucking Sweet Robin is going to appear.
What? No. Sweet Robin? I feel like everybody left alive.
Sorry.
I feel like everybody left alive, like all the lords, like Edmure Tully, Sweet Robin, maybe Ilaria if she's still alive. I feel like they're all going to come together at the end, and Dany's going to pass some type of judgment or ruling over their territories. I don't know. I would be super pissed off if the series ended and we didn't get to see any of these characters' resolution, because they were introduced. Yeah, I don't want to see anyone else die off screen.
Like the High Septon in the dungeons, still there.
You're the only person who remembers that guy. I just want you to know. You're the only person who remembers that guy.
He was in 5 seasons of the show.
Was he in 5? No, he wasn't in 5. Was he in 5 seasons of the show?
I don't know.
We'll say
Justice for Jeekwe.
We'll say
Justice for Jeekwe. Where the hell is Jeekwe?
No, but Edmure Tully, I want to see some resolution on that character. What they did to the Blackfish is absolutely atrocious. I want to see something towards the end with Jaqen. I don't want to leave the show with not checking back up on Jaqen. Just stuff like that is what I really.
I want to see Quaithe. But we won't see Quaithe. I don't think we're going to see Jaqen. I don't think we're going to see Quaithe.
They're saving a lot of that stuff for the sequel series or something. The Faceless Men sequel series coming next July on HBO.
Yeah. That'd be so good.
It would be, though. I'd watch that.
It would be good, but we're not getting it. Actually, now that you mentioned the prequel series, real quick, do you? Someone was telling me that they're not really hyped for the prequel series because a lot of the people they cast for it they're kind of not unknowns, but at the same time they're just actors that are kind of like meh.
Well,
Like
it's Naomi Watts, right?
Naomi Watts. You guys have been on this earth longer than I have. Naomi Watts, good, bad. I have no opinion.
I'm trying.
She's a utility player.
Yeah, she's passable. She's not gonna do anything special, but she can serve a role if she's
right. She's not winning an Oscar, but she's not losing. She's not. No one sits there and goes, "Oh, she's only on screen because she's hot."
Yeah,
like she plays great roles. She's a utility player. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have in the prequels, in the casting I saw, we had a lot of people of color coming into Game of Thrones now. Now HBO doesn't do like diversity hires to be a little controversial there. They don't do that because they don't care about that stuff. I actually know a guy who has some contacts in HBO, and they really don't care about that shit. Netflix will do it, other networks will do it, but HBO really doesn't give a fuck. So I'm gonna be led to believe here that a lot of these, people of color that are coming in for the prequels, maybe we might get more Dorne.
I mean, aren't they? The characters are black though. They're not just like they're not just tan.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it'll be interesting. It's I don't know where they're from or what their place in the story will be. I mean, it's one of the things I saw in casting that I thought was kind of interesting and unexpected.
Right.
So I'm anxious to see what it is.
Yeah.
And Phil, you want to add in on that?
Yeah, I just think it is going to be interesting to see, and I like the fact that a lot of them are known actors, or I haven't seen them in much, because I think what's going to sell this series is the production. I mean, actors, most of them are passable, and like we were saying about Naomi Watts, a singles hitter, utility player, she's good at doing what she does, and you get a lot of those bits and pieces if you have a team that's working on it creatively that are really working with the material and working with George, who knows a lot about television writing and can help as part of the show. I think that's what will make the show a little bit better. I don't think it's a coincidence that not just about the material, but about how George did have a hand in some of those early seasons, writing an episode here and there, being an advisor. Mm-hmm. He has a lot of television experience and a lot of good television experience. Mm-hmm. So I hope the prequel series brings him back into the fold as well.
Now, one thing that I'm wary about is, some prequels apparently do really well, like Better Call Saul, but I often think of Caprica, and Battlestar finished, and everyone, and most people hated the ending, but nonetheless, it finished, it was done, and then when Caprica came around, like, I guess there was no tension.
That's the biggest problem with prequels. It's can you care about the characters and care about what happens. How Better Call Saul got around it was it made it more of a character study piece and less important about the stakes of who's alive, who's dead. So it's more about it's like watching theater or something like that. So I think they just need to go for a different thing, not worry so much about the outcomes and worry about the what's happening. If they're doing the Age of Heroes and seeing everything being built, maybe it can be about just have a different feel to it. I don't know.
Yeah, and I hope it won't be like check boxes, like what they do with Star Wars movies, and stuff. Like, oh right, this needs to come together,
We need to have 10% more cutesy here. We need to have a sex scene here because Game of Thrones is known for boobs. So we need some boobs. Okay.
Wait. Did season 7 even have one? Like, did we even get anybody naked in season 7?
Didn't we have we had a Grey Worm and Missandei?
Oh yeah, we did. Yeah, we did have Missandei.
Oh yeah. I mean, I guess.
It was like the best acted scene of the entire season. Like,
cold-blooded.
No, I know. I mean, like those two characters. It's like those two actors, like really, worked hard, did their best for that scene.
Was that "You are my weakness"? Was that the one?
I don't know. I think it was about like him being insecure about about being Theon and her like accepting him.
Being Theon. And I just want to say that's my other prediction of this season, that somehow, and I said it earlier in passing, somehow Theon survives all of this. He's like, everyone dies but Theon. I think he's the last man standing on this show. Him and the Mountain are gonna be having an awkward tea party and putting on Waiting for Godot or something. You know, they're just gonna be hanging out.
He comes back, everyone's dead. Who's left alive? The Mountain?
Mountain's he's like,
but on the topic of the prequels, the one thing I don't like about the prequels is there are so many other areas that are much better. Like me and Preston are slowly going over Fire and Blood, and each chapter of Fire and Blood could be a season in and of itself. And I understand the budget is kind of because dragons all over the place. But still, you could do an anthology series with just stories from Westeros. I mean, it's funny, too, because the show focuses a lot on the White Walkers. And throughout the season, they slowly crept up to being more prevalent. And yet, in the books, they appear,
Preston?
It
depends. Oh, with the White Walkers? Let's see, the prologue. And then they appear when Sam kills one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess they're right outside with Varamir Sixskins, so you could maybe, but you don't see, I don't know if you see them.
You don't. I don't think
so. Maybe it is just 2 times.
You hear about Hardhome in the books, don't you? But they don't see it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, that's what I think that's what makes the book so great is that this is a threat, but it's in the back of our heads. Whereas in the show, it focuses on it more. I don't really care about a Long Night prequel. I really don't. I feel like HBO doesn't really know what makes a good Game of Thrones story, and I don't like yeah, White Walkers are a great thing, but there's so much more to A Song of Ice and Fire than snow zombies.
I mean, they think it's about tits and dragons, and I don't know. Maybe it is for a lot of people, but
to be fair, I think it was you who were telling me about this, Phil. There was a writer from the show who was on a podcast one time, and
sorry,
I was reading.
Yeah, the live chat's hilarious. Thank you, John Paul Sears.
There was a writer from the show who was on a podcast, and he literally said, most of the sex scenes we write in there is because we want to see the actors get freaky. He literally said this. I got to remember where I read that. I think you were telling me about it, Phil. But
and that's.
Look, Go ahead.
Oh, no, that just goes to the HBO thing. And that because they're on HBO, and HBO had Dream On it, which was one of the first shows that showed tits on television in a regular show. And then each show leading up to Oz, The Sopranos, they always put in, they put Sopranos in a freaking strip club so we could see tits in every episode. It's like an HBO thing more than anything else. But I think I agree with you. We've already done the White Walker or White Walker story. I would much rather them go back and look at the Targaryens. I mean, that's such a wide history of Westeros is associated with the Targaryens.
That's a lot of CGI though for those dragons.
You made so much fucking money, HBO. Shut the fuck up. Like pull out the pocketbook, dude. Put out HBO. Put out Game of Thrones seasons in the movie theaters. Throw these final episodes. Do a tour. Sell your merchandise. Do whatever. You make enough money on this show that I don't want to hear that crap from HBO. Go shut the fuck up. They make enough money.
Speaking of merchandise, so there was a sale a while ago for Game of Thrones stuff, and I like to collect stuff like that. I do. I sincerely do. But there's a lot of Game of Thrones crap merchandise. I mean, I told Preston I was gonna do a review on this fucking box I got where they just stuff random shit from Thrones in the box, and it's just all shit. I just got so much crap. I should just do a giveaway of this random shit in that stupid box. They gave me check this out. They gave me this box, a lot of stuff. They gave me a Jaime Lannister golden hand oven mitt, a fucking for House Lannister. They gave me a green flower pot for fucking House Tyrell. They gave me a Greyjoy pin. It's just so much crap in here.
The Red Viper's used condom is in there, too.
Sure. Holy shit.
First of all,
he does. I'm sorry.
Red Viper would never, ever wear a condom.
I said that. I thought about that right after I said that. This story doesn't make sense. But yeah, it's turned into Krusty the Clownish a little bit, where they can just put Game of Thrones name on anything. It's like, I'll buy it. I'll buy that for $1.
I actually had the Game of Thrones wine from Napa Valley. It was actually really good.
It was really.
Oh, really?
That shit was really good. That was really good.
But but it didn't need to be Game of Thrones. But I guess I would have never bought it otherwise. But it was actually a really good bottle of wine.
Oh my goodness. Another Angel B. Carmine, are you cheating on Preston? Shame, shame, damn, shame, shame, shame.
Thank you for the super chat donations, guys. I'm going to. I will, Empress. I will give you the oven mitt. Guys, I'm gonna say something no other Thrones YouTuber has the balls to say. We're gonna be wrapping up soon, so please, no more super chat donations, please, because yeah, we're gonna be wrapping this up soon. It is 7:24 Eastern time, and yeah, just a couple more, just a couple more things. The one question I always get all the time, and me and Preston were briefly discussing this before, is what's going to happen after Thrones ends. You guys do realize that there's more shit to cover. Like, me and Preston aren't even remotely close to finishing Fire and Blood. Holy shit.
Oh yeah. I mean, obviously,
go ahead,
but obviously people don't like to read as much as they like to watch TV. You know, and listen, but but you know, I think we'll. I mean, I'll still cover the books, but I think you know we might try some other shows. Like I tried Westworld last year. I'll probably continue with that and things like that.
I enjoyed listening to you rip apart Westworld. That was fun.
Westworld's so much fun.
Yeah, I do. I love the show. I watch it, but it's a fun show to pick apart for good and for bad.
Yeah.
I mean, season 2 of Westworld, I wasn't like too into it. I mean, I felt like season 1 was better.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Much tighter of a season. I understand what they were trying to do with season 2, but it came off a little bit like throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks a couple times.
But don't you dare tell me what to do. I am the king. No, the next live stream we're gonna do, it will be next week. It'll be on Preston's channel. Like I said, I wanted to pop your live stream cherry. It's also, you know, on my channel. I've never done it before, so you know. But yeah. Anyways, you guys want to wrap this up?
Cool.
Phil, you cool with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us for this. I know it's normally these live streams go on for like 42 hours, and I want to make sure I can get these guys out of here so they can go and grab some food and prepare for the premiere. When does the show come on? 9 o'clock, right?
9 o'clock, hour and a half.
Hour and a half. Oh shit. You guys.
Ding 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 ding.
You guys have.
You're like, I gotta get my calzone.
Oh my god, I do.
Look, I love that fucking. There's a calzone place here. It's fucking fantastic. But no, you guys have renewed your HBO subscriptions, right? Because I actually fucked up earlier today, and I forgot that I hadn't renewed it for like 3 months. I don't know how I could fucking forget that. I panicked and I, asked everybody I could on Facebook for it. But you guys renewed your shit, right? We're all set here.
Yeah,
I'm good.
I never canceled.
Yeah, HBO has a free preview. I didn't cancel either. I was watching rewatched Oz recently.
Oh, dude, I gotta watch Oz. I gotta watch The Wire. I know I'm gonna get so much hate. The Wire. I gotta watch The Sopranos. I saw that. I gotta watch The Sopranos.
Leftovers, man. Leftovers.
No, oh god, he's been trying to plug that for ages. Have you seen The Leftovers?
I haven't, but I've heard good things about it.
Do The Expanse. We need to.
Yes, we're doing The Expanse. Today, somebody was telling me about The Expanse books, and like they wouldn't shut up about them.
I've been getting yelled at to check out The Tudors on Netflix, and I like Michael Hirst's Vikings. Have you seen The Tudors? Everybody seen The Tudors?
No, I haven't seen
that. I've seen Vikings, especially the. I like Vikings. The last couple of seasons have been, but the early stuff's really awesome.
That actually would be an interesting series. Preston's never watched, which is taken from that guy with glasses. One of his co-workers, Tamara. She has a series. Yeah. Tamara's never watched. I would be interested to see what you think of the Vikings, because that's kind of like the poor man's Game of Thrones.
I'll give it a shot. I've seen one episode. I was on a plane.
You've seen one episode?
Yeah, it made no sense to me. But I saw one episode. I was on a plane. Mm-hmm. That was it.
But yeah, let's wrap this up, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, check out Phil the Issues Guy, because Preston, are you down to go on Phil's live stream like every once in a while? I'm down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We're gonna definitely do a feedback show with you guys at some point. And anytime you want to pop in, feel free. You guys are always have an invitation.
Guys, please check out Phil the Issues Guy. Phil's amazing. You know, he does a discussion piece after the episode ends, right after it ends. So be sure to check out his channel. I'll leave a link in the description below.
Thank you.
Also, be sure to check out Preston Gilligan Jacobs. He does theories every now and then. So I've decided that is your made up name, your made up middle name.
Gilligan.
Made up middle names, Gilligan.
Gilligan.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you after the premiere. I will, and these guys will see you also after the premiere. Preston and I will be back with the podcast. We're going to take a break from Fire and Blood, but we'll be back with the podcast to discuss episode 1. We'll see you all next time. Have a good one.